It's Black Friday. Do you know where your women folk are? Jim?
I know mine is. Yeah.
Where is she?
Mine is went to the hairdresser.
All right. Well, this is a Black Friday edition of the show with no name for 2012. I'm Bob Going with Jim Nikosha. Gavin could not be here today. Apparently, he has things he has to do.
You got to get to the store.
Yep. Yep. We have our cornucopia here left over from what was that? Thanksgiving yesterday.
Thanksgiving, yeah.
It seems so long ago. It was 3 football games ago.
3 football. Well, you were lucky. I didn't see any of the football games.
You didn't see any of them?
No.
Oh my God! You should have seen the New York Jets last night. It was really pathetic.
Oh wait, yes. I'm sorry. I did see the first quarter.
The Patriots scored, well, the second quarter is what there is. The Patriots scored 3 times in 52 seconds, yeah. Only one of which was on the offense. Yeah. It was just incredible.
I did see that.
Just incredible. I mean, whatever could go wrong did go wrong. Yeah.
How much did they win by at the final?
Oh,
I think they had 35.
49. They ended up with 49. Yeah, the Jets had a comeback. They had to score the last 3 points in the first half and the first 9 points? No. 2. Yeah, first 9 points in the second half because, the Patriots scored 2 of those for them with a safety. They committed a penalty in the end zone, which is an automatic safety. I've never even seen that play happen, but that's what happened. Yeah.
I saw the 2 fumbles and that.
And
the guy just caught it on the run.
That was fantastic. It was like that was a design like play. Yeah. He's just running and all of a sudden he's got the ball and runs it in. You know? And it was, it was a deflection that he just happened to get there at the right time.
Right time. Yep.
Wow. If you're a Jets fan, it was awful. Fortunately, I'm not, so it was kind of funny, actually.
No, I'm not a Jets fan.
But the people who
paid
for those seats,
I favor New York teams.
Buffalo.
Right.
Yeah. They keep showing the New York City skyline. What is this? This is not a New York team. And why don't they show the all the gas flames and the chemical plants,
around
and the swamp. Why don't they show the swamp? Anyway, it's. So did you go out? You must have gone out shopping last night then for when the stores open.
I don't shop. I don't head to the stores.
You don't?
No way. No.
Wow.
I let the women folk do that.
The women folk do that.
And my wife didn't do it either.
Really? Yeah. Yeah, but all I'm seeing is Facebook is all these people condemning the stores opening on Thursday, and then then Thursday night I see all the reports about the stores they went to.
Yeah. They're the first ones in line.
Yeah. Well, so what's happening in the world since last we met? We've been off for a couple of weeks.
Well, let's see. I finished my outdoor oven, my clay oven. I think I told you that last week.
Well, you said you were about ready to fire it up.
Well, I fired it up twice, and I made bread in it twice, and a pizza. Put a pizza in there, and it was about 80 seconds. It was done.
Yeah.
Honest to God.
How can that be?
Honest to God. The pizza was about this big. Before I put the bread in, I said, well, let me see. I took a piece of dough off the bread, rolled it out, put some cheese on it, some pepperoni, slid it in there, and I'm talking to my nephew next to me. All of it, Uncle Jim, he says, it's burning. So I looked in there. You can see the pepperoni curl up like this, and the edges are turning brown. So I lifted it up, and it was brown on the bottom, so I pulled it out. We ate it. It was terrific.
How hot must that have been?
It had to have been about 800 degrees.
Holy smokes.
So I let it cool down for...
And this you just made, it was like clay, right?
It's clay and sand mixture. And I formed it over an old fiber cardboard drum for the shape.
Yeah.
And let it dry, and when the first firing, it burned out the drum.
Right. Right. It's an old Boy Scout trick.
And well, I was a Boy Scout, but I never heard of that one.
Believe it or not, that predates the time you were in the Boy Scouts. I have one of those old reproduction manuals
really?
from. It's not actually Boy Scouts. It's something like that from about 1920 or thereabouts.
Boys World. Well, anyway, then after it burned, I put a small fire in to burn it out. I wanted to temper the clay. I didn't want it to.
You didn't, right.
So the next firing was a little bit hotter. Then the third one is when I baked the bread. The bread came out pretty good.
Now, how long did you have the fire going before you threw the bread in?
It was about 2 hours, 2.5 hours that I had to heat the oven up.
But it'll hold the heat for a while, I imagine.
Yeah, it held the heat for probably 2 hours after that.
Wow.
Yeah, you couldn't put your hand inside the oven.
Yeah.
It was that hot in there.
I was went out to eat in central New York one time, and they had these potatoes that were just fantastic. It was like a peeled potato, but it was a whole potato, but it was baked or roasted. And you know, and fantastic. And I said, look, I don't live here. I'm not in the restaurant business. I said, I got to know your secret to this. She said, pizza oven. We put the potatoes in the pizza oven at the real hot temperatures and cooks them fast and cooks them solid.
When they're peeled?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know, the second batch of bread I made, after the bread was all made, it was getting ready for dinner. And that night, Elaine wanted a steak because she was going to go out. I took the 2 steaks and I threw them in the oven. I didn't clean the oven out. I threw them in there. And I overcooked them a little bit because I like them rare or medium rare.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to judge.
Yeah, but Elaine loved them, but eating. She says, "What's the grit in here?" I said, "I didn't clean the oven out." I said, "Don't worry." I said, "The clay is good for your system."
Right, just put a little grill in there or something first. Yeah. Wow.
But I left the steaks in there probably 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, which is too long for that. But
yeah,
I had no way to judge how long to keep them in there. So the next time I know,
stick the thermometer on them.
Yeah, but you know, how the heck you put a thermometer in there?
Yeah. So what do you light the fire, and then when the fire is done, you sweep the ashes out?
Sweep the ashes out, and with a wet rag, and on the end of a stick.
Yeah, because you don't want to put your hand in at that point.
You swab it, rinse the rag out, swab it again, and get all the soot out and everything that's.
So this is basically the same principle as keeping putting the hot brick in your bed at night to keep you warm.
Yeah, pretty close. It'll stick. The outside of the oven, the first batch of bread I made, the outside of the oven you could not touch it. The clay was so hot you could not keep your hands on it. I mean, that's how much heat that clay absorbed. And that's why you could cook for a couple hours after the fire is gone, because everything is still in there. It was fun. It was fun. Elaine says, "You going to make bread tomorrow?" I said, "No." I said, "I'm not making bread every day."
Well, not if it takes 2 hours to heat the oven up. Well, how many loaves can you make at a time? One?
No, I made the second batch. I made 6. And I probably could have gotten 2 more in there. 1 pound loaves.
Wow.
I probably could have gotten 8 in there.
You cook them in the pan, or you cook them cook them on straight? Just put the dough out there and put it right on the brick.
Right on the brick. Right on the brick. Yeah.
Wow. This is really incredible.
The next time I fire it up, I'll give you a call. If you're around, you can come down and see what's going on.
Yeah, I'll bring some gluten-free dough down.
There you
too.
go. Yeah.
I made some pepperoni bread the other day in the bread maker, gluten-free pepperoni bread. I was improvising because I had pizza crust dough, and I thought, I'll try this on the French loaf setting, see how it comes out. hard as a rock is how it came out. It didn't rise.
I've got a bread machine, and I think I used it. I think I used it twice.
I had an old one, but this one we got when I went on the gluten-free diet, and I'll tell you, it works very well. It comes out just about. I never get the yeast right when I do it by hand. It you know, and it just comes out doughy and.
But I think the key with the yeast is to proof it before you use it. Put it in a little bit of water. Let it
foam.
Let it foam.
Well, yeah, but you got to have the water temperature exactly right. It seems it says.
Tap it out of the
it says. Yeah, and, I don't know what that means. At any rate, it never works. So I think what happened this time is I think I got one of those discount store packages of the. So the yeast was probably old.
If you're going to make a lot of bread and dough, go up to the health food store and get a bag of.
Tuckerowski's
yeast.
Up there, yeah.
Get a bag of yeast.
A bag of yeast.
Get a bag of yeast. It comes in half-pound bags.
Really?
For $2.
Really?
Yeah. $2.54 I think I paid Thursday.
Well, we got our better quality gluten-free stuff up there. They run a nice operation.
Yeah, I was looking at the flour. I was looking at the different flours, and I might try a different flour. I'm not sure. I'm not that into different flours, but I like to use King Arthur flour.
Yeah.
It seems to be. I seem to get a little bit better dough out of it.
Just so the YouTube people know, this is not a product placement or an advertisement. This is merely a review. Product review. Consumer reports. Review.
Well, if they want to pay me a royalty, I'm not adverse to that.
What's that?
King Arthur, if they want to pay me.
Oh yeah, well
that's okay.
Whatever you do, don't hum Danny Boy, or they'll nail you.
Send me a bag of flour or something.
Yeah. I wonder if I sang Danny Boy, it would pick it up.
It might.
It might very well. I mean, I'm just astonished that it.
Yeah.
We told that story last time, but that their software just picks it up. Oh, my kids have these smartphones, and they've got an app that does that. I said to Hannah, what's this tune? That sounds familiar. She goes, and it tells you. Yeah. It tells you what the tune is. You're listening to it, what the name of it is.
Yeah. These phones are terrific. They're beyond me because I won't read the instruction books.
Yeah, I mean, it would take way too much of my time. It's bad enough now that,
Yeah. Trial and error. That's
all this Facebook stuff. But I got all these friends. I got to find out what they're doing every minute of every day.
No, I go on there if there's a notification on one of my friends, I'll look on Facebook. But other than that, I'm not into it that much.
So how many did you have for dinner yesterday?
We only had 12 people.
Only 12?
Yeah.
I think we had more than that. How do you like that?
Yeah, well, some of them couldn't make it. A couple of the kids had to go with their in-laws, and the holidays during the year, they'll go wherever they want to. Christmas they make sure they come home.
Oh, that's great.
30,
even if they're expected somewhere else. So.
Yeah, 30 people for Christmas Eve.
Wow. Well, we had an extra table, but we didn't even need it. I was surprised. We managed to fit everybody in. Rosanna was working, so I skipped the turkey trot, by the way.
I saw it. I says, I don't see Bob there.
Yeah. Anna and Bob ran and did good. Bob did real good. He did like 24 minutes. Really? And he's not my runner. Jamie's the runner.
So it's a 10K.
Yeah, 5K.
5K.
5K. That's a good time. That's a good time, even if you're in high school. He's an old guy now. He's
30.
Well, no, he'll be 30. Yeah, he'll be 30 in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
Well, 3 weeks, something like that. Cy's birthday's coming up first. Cy Foltman is with us at the other end of the table, but he's off camera. Say hi, Cy.
Happy birthday, Cy.
Well, it's not quite his birthday.
Well, that's
it's
okay.
coming up in
I may not see him.
Couple of weeks.
All right. Well, then I'll.
Couple of weeks, he'll be 90.
Geez, he only got me by a few years.
Yeah, it's only got you by a few years.
Wow.
Jim just turned 80, so he's a couple of weeks ago.
A couple of weeks ago, yeah.
He had a surprise party that was only a surprise to you, right?
Yeah, yeah. Everybody in town knew it but me.
Now, you know how I found out? I didn't tell you. I was over at Bert DeRosa's house, and he had just gotten the email from one of the kids looking for the anecdotes.
Yeah. It's
By the way, you know what I'm looking for? Maybe you might be able to come up with it because your wife was a cousin of Johnny Marticello, who got to meet Joe DiMaggio in 1942. I'm looking for pictures of from that day, from that game, and the parade or whatever. And
do I have a picture? I might have a picture of him and Joe DiMaggio when they gave him the ball.
There was one that they ran in the Leader Herald a few years ago, but I don't think it was an original. I think it was like the newsprint copy they ran. But
well, Elaine's got it. Elaine's got it all on the computer, whatever she had. So I'll look on there and see if it's
then steal it for me.
Yeah.
I'll give credit to whoever.
Yeah, I'll send it. Yeah, if it's there, I'll send it to you.
That was I was writing up the account for my book the other night. Now, this was July the 20th, 1942. And the Yankees, they actually came in on, I don't know whether it was the Empire State Limited or something like that. It was a train that ordinarily doesn't stop in Amsterdam, and actually they divided it into two parts that day. And one part sped right through town. And,
like most trains.
Like most trains. And you recall that Felix Olisi, who was then the surrogate judge, was also the treasurer of the rug makers.
Oh, really?
So when the train goes by, somebody in the crowd said, Felix must be holding court in Fonda today. He's got the Yankees coming up there. So they get off the train. There's 4,000 people meeting them downtown.
Wow.
They say, crowd estimates being what they are, but nevertheless, and you know how limited Amsterdam's downtown is. The parade went from the train station to the Elks Club on Division Street. So they went down the couple of blocks of East Main Street, went a couple blocks up Market, took a left, and they're already at the Elks Club. And but it was sort of a ticker tape parade because people were leaning out the office windows. Now those 3-story buildings, I can't imagine that it must have gone like straight down to the sidewalk. But when they went by the bank building, I guess the people on the upper floors were tossing out confetti, and they say ticker tape, but I can't believe anybody had a ticker tape machine in there.
Well, there's maybe one at the Western Union office down on Railroad Street.
Yeah, they would have gone past that. Yeah, they would have gone past that. But that was on the first floor, wasn't it?
First floor. I think it was, yeah.
Is that where it was, Railroad Street?
Let's see. I
was thinking it was Walnut Street, but
maybe it was Walnut. I know.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was outside the range of the parade.
Yeah, Railroad. The newspaper office was there, so I think it was Walnut was the next one over where the AMP.
I suppose I could have thrown it off the top floor of the newspaper building. bundles of yesterday's newspaper.
shredded newspaper.
So they had a big lunch at the Elks Club, and then I guess they rested at the Thayer Hotel, which I think was on Market Street, wasn't it? Wasn't it like where the Peter Schuyler was? Wasn't that the Thayer? They'd changed names a bunch of times. That would have been before your time.
Yeah. But I remember the name though. But
you remember that Thayer Hotel
on Division Street?
Hotel Thayer, was that on Market Street or
Division Street?
Or Division Street? Might have been. There was a hotel on Division Street too. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
In any event, comes time for the bus to the ballpark for the game, and Joe DiMaggio and Lefty Gomez are nowhere to be found.
Is that right?
They missed the bus.
They're in the barn.
No, I found out, from a later story where they work is Lefty Gomez comes back to town in 44, 45 to address some men's athletic smoker or something, and he told the true story what happened. They went down to see Jimmy Pep, Old Sam's brother, and who was a boxing promoter.
Yeah.
I guess one of them knew him, or somebody knew.
I think everybody knew him.
Probably everybody knew him. So anyway, they're down there having spaghetti with Jimmy Pep when they should have been catching the bus. So they get back to the there. The bus is gone, and they said, "Now what do we do?" And George Sandy the Elder comes by in his convertible, and gave him a ride up. I think it was a convertible. Gave him a ride up to the ballpark. Oh. Hey Joe, aren't you supposed to be somewhere? According to David Petruccia's book on the Canadian American League regarding that incident, DiMaggio says to him, "Where are the good-looking women in this town?" Well, if he was looking for Norma Jean, he came to the wrong place.
Well, there were some good-looking women in town.
Yeah. He's here for
John's father was a big politician, Pee Wee Marticello.
I remember Pee Wee. Yeah.
Him and his barber shops down on Main Street.
He was not on West Main somewhere, right? Or no, he was on East Main for a while, right? Oh no, just West Main, right?
Down in the cellar of the hotel.
Of the Hotel Griffin,
and
right?
then they moved across the street in the waiting room, next to the waiting room.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because that's where he was.
But he lived in the West End, right?
Yes. Yeah. He lived on Division Street for a while. Then he lived on Florida Avenue. A couple places.
I guess he must have passed away by this time, huh? Some years.
By this time, you mean?
Now.
Oh yeah. It's been a few years. Yeah,
I remember. He used to be. I think he used to be on the Republican committee.
Yes.
And it was him and Dominic Salamak and Vince Russo and
you got the story with Dominic.
Sam Pachoka.
When I came to Amsterdam in the 50s, and I met Dominic and some of the Republicans because through my uncle Pee Wee.
Right.
So I don't know, it was 52 or 53, 54. I applied for a job for the state. I go to Albany, I interview this guy. I said, "Yeah, okay." He says, "We'll put you on." He says, "You got to bring a letter though from your committeeman." I said, "Really?" "Oh yeah." He says, "Political job." He says, "You get." I go see Dominic. "Dominic, I need a letter so I can get this job." He said, "I don't know, dude." I said, "What?" He said, "I don't know you." I said, "Oh my God." Well, needless to say, I didn't get the letter and I didn't get the job.
Wow.
That's how politics was back in those days,
But I knew Dominic well in his later years. We actually ended up on the same side of a few things. He was very helpful to me in my early campaigns.
Other than that incident with me, he was a terrific guy.
But I used to hear stories about. I remember somebody telling me when they moved to town, the first person who knocked on the door was Dominic Salamak. I mean, that's what committeemen did in those days, or at least the good ones.
Yeah.
As soon as somebody moved into town, he knocked on the door, introduced himself. "I'm your local Republican committeeman. Are you registered to vote? You should enroll as a Republican. Here's why," and all this stuff. And guys, Pachoka was the same. I mean, Pachoka could be a pain in the neck, but he was tireless when it came to doing the grunt work. I'll tell you. I liked him, by the way. When I say he was a pain in the neck, I just say he had, A strong personality.
Pee Wee talked me into registering as a Republican. Or was I? No, I'm not sure. I think I was an independent at the time because I was a young kid when I came to Amsterdam, and thinking of going out of the fire department. He says you've got to register as a Republican if you want this job, because the job wasn't for 6 months or so. So I said okay. So I registered as a Republican.
And then Averell Harriman got elected, right?
You know, well, anyway, there was 4 of us on the list for the job, and there was only 3 openings. Now, how did it go? The top man was a Democrat. The top 2 men were Democrats.
That looks good.
The next 3 were Republicans. Guess who got the jobs?
The 2 Democrats.
No, the Republicans.
Oh, yeah.
And the one guy says, well, he went to the chief and he says, how come? He says, I didn't get appointed. He says, I'm top on the list. And he says, because you're registered as a Democrat. You know, at the time I didn't know this when I got, of course.
This one you went in the fire department.
Yeah, when I went on the fire department, yeah. So, you know, and then again, you know, when I took the test, you know, I had a couple politicians, I don't know, no, they weren't politicians. A couple guys told, he said, you know, he said, if you want that job, he says, you got to come up with a couple $100. I said, what? Yeah, he says, you got to come up with a couple $100. He says, to pay off to get that job. I said, well, I'm sorry. I said, I don't have the money to do that, so I'm not. I said, so I guess I won't get the job. But I didn't pay off anybody, but I got the job.
I bet you got a lot of invitations to party events thereafter.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
That job paid you what?
Paid nothing.
$2 grand a year or something?
$3 grand when I started. $3 grand, 4 when I left. It's 8 years of poverty. We had guys on the job that were getting social services help. I said, really? Yeah. I said, well, I said, I can't do that. I went out and got a second job.
Yeah. Wow.
And I still couldn't make it.
Wow. And you were raising a family by that time.
Yeah, that's why I left. I had the 5 kids, and there's no way I can survive on this pay, even with 2 jobs. I don't know how some of a lot of the guys didn't have 5 kids. But the guys that had 2 kids, 3 kids, they could survive on the job with their part-time jobs.
Well, that's amazing. What was my other Dominic? Oh, I was telling you. When I first came back to town after law school, I opened my office and had 2 clients, so I really didn't have a lot to do. And I had an office in the bank building, and the bank building at that time was filled with semi-retired lawyers.
Really?
Guys who've been practicing forever and were just kind of putting in the time, and they spent most of the day visiting with each other. Don Roy would be in Tony Casellas' office, and Frank Marticello would be over chatting with Bill Carrero, and it was like Bill Christian was. Well, Bill Christian was just Bill Christian. He kind of kept to himself, but great. Let me interrupt with the great Bill Christian. No, I won't tell it. He's still alive, and he's got a Bronze Star in the war, so I'll tell the story later. Anyway, so I spent a lot of time with Frank Marticello, who would fill me in on the political history of the city, because at that point he'd been mayor twice. He'd been passed over for judgeship, so all these, and I remember he was. I forget what it was, but I don't know whether it was when he was running for mayor or something else, and I said to him, so how about Dominic Salamack? Was he with you or against you? He says, who the heck knows? Who the heck knows?
I lived in Frank Marticello's father's house for about a year and a half, 2 years on Gardner Street.
Gardner Street. Yeah.
Yeah, I lived upstairs in the house. That was quite a place. Coal-fired furnace for.
A lot of that in those days.
Yeah. And I had no idea how to run a coal stove.
When we first moved back here, when I was a kid, 1960. There was still an awful lot of coal-burning furnaces in this town. I mean, the Wednesday pickup was mostly for coal ashes.
Yeah, yeah.
The house next door to ours was a converted furnace. It was converted like in 1930 something, and so it's this huge monster furnace in this boiler, and that thing lasted forever. Larry Marini kept that thing going well into the 70s, if not the 80s, until finally, one day he says, he says, I can't get parts for this anymore. One time the thermostat went on it. It was just, the thermostat is like this big, and it was made out of iron, and had a thermometer on it, and really fancy, and it went. And if you replaced it with one like they have now, these little plastic things, there would have been a gap in the wallpaper this wide. Don't you know he found one on the shelf in his shop out of the box from 1930?
Really?
Yeah, it's been sitting on the shelf since 1930. So you've got a duplicate original.
I don't remember if we had a thermostat. We must have had a thermostat with that coal furnace, but I didn't know how to operate a coal stove. Mr. Marticello downstairs, he would go through, I don't know, 2 or 3 ton of coal a year. And I was going through 7 or 8 ton of coal a year because I couldn't regulate it. I didn't know how to regulate it.
Did you have to shovel it yourself? Or
yeah. Oh yeah, you had to shovel it. Yeah, you go down there twice a day to load. That's why I went through, because I didn't know how the hell to run. I just used to throw the coal in there, let it burn.
Right.
It was either too hot or too cold.
Yeah.
And I'd look over at his, and he'd have it banked. Yeah, I didn't know what he was doing at the time, but he would have a fire in the front and coals in the back, or ash. And he used to go like this with me. Don't do that. Don't do that. I said, don't do what? He said, you're putting too much coal on there. I said, but it's cold. He was quite an old man, quite a guy.
I don't remember this, but my mother was telling me when we lived in Troy, when I was first born, we had a 2nd floor flat. And in those days, my mother was always pregnant. And she'd be going down to the basement, shoveling the coal to keep us warm. One of my friends, Peter Thomas, remember Peter Thomas? He came over when we were doing the show on over at the coffee shop one time. I hadn't seen him in 40 years.
Yeah.
He lived in one of the old Vanderveer houses on Locust Avenue. And they had a coal furnace with an automatic feeder. I mean, this was like the deluxe of deluxe. If the Vanderveers didn't have the best, I don't know who did.
We had one in the firehouse.
Yeah, I mean, just put it in and
stoker,
and it would regulate the temperature itself. It need more coal? Here it comes. My mother could have used one of those. But next door to us on Trinity Place, they still had coal in the early 60s, and Mr. and Mrs. Onsher were both well in their 70s at that time. And, Mrs. Onsher was, a hunchback, or bent over, old Lithuanian woman, and every Tuesday night she'd be hauling those ashes out, and she'd be using the coal shuttle for a cane, leaning way over like this. Oh, it was awful. And then they used those. They used to dump the ashes in the old Erie Canal.
Yeah. And
my backyard here too, by the way. Every time people talk, how would you like a landfill in your backyard? I got a landfill in my backyard.
Yeah, everybody had. I went into a building down on Railroad Street, just before you went over the railroad tracks going up the hill. Carbonelli's building, I think it was, on the left-hand side, going to the south side. And it was, I think there was three levels below ground.
Really?
Well, that was from the roadway down to the riverbank.
Oh, okay. Yep.
There was like a couple levels in there. The bottom two were filled with ashes. They dumped,
that's just what they did over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fill the sub basement.
Filled it. Yeah. They didn't have any place to put it, so they filled up the bottom of the. I don't know if originally if it was used as a room or anything, but ashes.
Wow. Was that when it burned down? Is that when
No, it burned down quite a while after that. They may have used that for that was near where they had the Coke plant, right? Where they made the gas.
The Coke plant was on the north side of the river.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, you're on the north side.
North side.
Okay.
The jewelry store was on the corner. I think it was a jewelry store or
what are we on, Bridge Street or
Bridge Street?
Okay. The coal plant was the coal plant was where the park is, where the second phase of the Riverlink Park is, because that's where they had to do the rehab work.
Yeah. So maybe that building was part of that Coke business with all the ashes in the cellars. Because that's what they use, I guess, the coal, right, to get the oil, coal oil.
Yeah, they used I believe they used bituminous coal for that, as opposed to anthracite, which is like you would use in your house unless you're. Now, so when Cy was a kid during the Great Depression, they would go along the railroad, the Amsterdam Northern and Chuctanunda Railroad tracks to pick up coal, right? Yeah.
Well, they used to
bring it home.
Yeah, they used to.
That's not stealing if it falls off the railroad car. It's fair game at that point.
When the train would stop to get water, the kids would start throwing coal off the top of the train.
Oh my God, that's stealing.
Yeah,
and that's stealing.
Yeah, the half where.
They used to have that big pile at the end of the line where it hit the power plant, actually there was. The tracks split at that point. One went up behind the power plant and dumped the coal directly into the power plant.
Okay, yeah.
Did you ever take that tour when you were in Albany?
No.
It's fascinating. When you see what they were able to figure out before the age of modern technology, it is just amazing. One guy could measure the amount of coal going into that furnace within 2 or 3 pounds. They had all these levers you would pull to this much. You set it this way, you get 500 tons coming or whatever. I mean, really. I mean, they were dumping tons of, and all the guy had to do was pull a lever. And it was all mechanical. It was all weighted and pulleys and levers and all this stuff. And then they had the turbine and the generator and the synchronized with gears so that it would have perfect electrical output, steady electrical output. No matter how hot the steam got that was turning the turbine, that would gear down so that they were producing enough power in that plant to light a city of 60,000 people.
Yeah, that's
just at that Mohawk, and I mean all the gauges and it's all mechanical, nothing electronic there. It's all and I'd like to really meet the guys who figured that all out. Yeah. Yeah.
No, those were the engineers. Those were the original engineers. They could figure that stuff out. It's amazing what the knowledge that some of these guys had that wasn't in books.
Well, of course, Michael Chiara's favorite, Nikola Tesla, was just maybe one of the greatest geniuses of all time. He was 3 years old, and And he invented calculus so he could figure out the volume of an irregularly shaped bathtub, you know, at the age of 3. But when he came to this country, he got off the boat, went to work for Edison. They just walked into Edison's office and said, "I want a job." And of course, he was the exact opposite of Edison. Edison was, try this, doesn't work, reject it. Try this, doesn't work, reject it. Try this, it doesn't work, reject it. Tesla did it all in his head. I mean, he would figure out, he would do all the testing in his head. He would just sit back and imagine a machine, and then he would run the machine in his head, figure out what's wrong with it, try something else, run it for 30 years in his head to see what's going to break down and how you're going to prove that. And then he'd build a machine and it'd be perfect. Every time. Anyway, the point I was making is, at that time, Westinghouse had come up with the alternate current. You know, there was a big rivalry between Edison and Westinghouse. Edison believed in direct current. It's safe. But the problem with it is he couldn't transmit at long distances. And when they started harnessing like Niagara Falls, you wanted to get the power from Niagara Falls to New York City. You had to, alternating current was the only way to go. The problem was, no one had figured out how to make a motor run with alternating current. Direct current, they understood, right? And you know, that's another one of those things Tesla did in his head. Sold the idea to Westinghouse, and it was so successful that his royalty agreement with Westinghouse was worth like $200 billion or some crazy sum like that. I mean, it was absolutely astronomical. And at one point, Westinghouse was really strapped. Westinghouse himself, I mean, was strapped for cash, and he asked Tesla to renegotiate the deal, and Tesla agreed to it and died broke.
You know, talk about things, guys figuring things in their head. I worked at the Adirondack Inn, Sagamore. Okay. As a.
You also worked for Adirondack Radio Supply Company, didn't you?
No.
Oh no. Okay, go ahead.
Radio Shack. Well, anyway, you know, and I was just a general. Whatever needed to be done, I would help them do, with no particular skills. And I had to work with the guy, the maintenance man, old guy. And he walked, you know, hunched over, gray hair. He smoked Mersham pipes, you know. And when there was a project, we had to do something, he'd say, "I'll be right back." So he would leave. He had a room there where he had a cot near the furnace. And he'd come back in 20 minutes to a half hour, or sometimes an hour. And finally I asked him, I says, "What's going on?" I said, "Every time we got to do something, I should take off for an hour." He's like, "Go back to my cot." He said, "I lay down and I figure out what's got to be done before I start to do it." And inevitably, when we would start a project, he knew exactly what we were doing. It just went right in sequence. You know,
I keep telling my kids that that's what I'm doing, and
when you got your eyes closed.
Yeah.
I'm making plans. That's what I told.
But they did a Father's Day video for me one year, in which they each took turns pretending they were me, and one would be lying down on the bed snoring with a sign on the chest saying, "I'm working, I'm thinking." Little snacks.
That old guy was quite a man. And matter of fact, I think his name was Mann.
His name was Mann.
Jacob, I think it was. No.
Jake Mann used to work for the city.
Jacob Mann was the fireman.
That's right.
But I think this guy's last name was Mann. And a real old guy. He knew where every shut-up, that was a big building, 100 and some rooms, a couple hundred rooms. He knew where every water shutoff was, you know, under what floorboard, under what board in each one of the rooms. Just amazing. Just amazing.
Where was that located?
Adirondack Inn, the Saginaw in the west side of the bridge.
Okay, that's gone.
Yeah, that burned down. That's when some football player bought it there years back, and then.
What? You want to? Si's having a good time here. Well, all right. Okay, you're wanted, Si. Yeah, you're wanted. They're going to take you away. Okay.
That used to be the railroad, the FJ&G's railroad park, the Adirondack.
Oh, right. Yeah, I think the old station is still there, isn't it? In the park.
Yes, the station is still there. My brother owned the dance hall.
Is that right?
And they converted it into a storage shed for the boats because he owns the marina there. He bought some land up there. And
right. Were the dance halls already gone by the time you were dancing age, or they're still around?
No, it was still around.
There used to be a lot of them.
Yeah. We used to go to Kroger Lake. Yeah, that's stamping grounds.
Still there, but they don't use it. You want to buy it? It's for sale.
I know it is.
I can't understand.
The insurance, from what I understand, the insurance got so tremendous there that's why they started closing it up.
Well, of course, they had that unfortunate incident with the woman who got killed on the merry-go-round.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been it's a couple of owners later, and it's just that used to be such a hopping area, Corogo Lake, and it's dead as a doornail now.
Yeah, every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you couldn't move at that place.
Yeah.
But, we used to go there, every Friday night, Saturday night, sometimes Sunday afternoons, and that's where hitchhike up there.
Yeah, I mean, we draw a big crowd from Gloversville and Johnstown, but a lot of people from here always went up there too. But now it's wow.
That's where I met Elaine, and on the dance floor.
10 cents a dance.
10 cents a dance.
She was selling and you were buying, huh?
No, she was there watching, and a friend of mine asked her to dance. I said, if he can ask her to dance, so can I.
Wow. The rest is history.
The rest is history.
You just had your anniversary. How'd your anniversary go there?
That was last year. I think it was last year, wasn't it?
The big one?
Yeah. 60 years. Those were the days, my friends.
Wow. The passage of had a couple of deaths in the family since last we met. My Aunt Betty
I saw that on Facebook.
passed away at 93, and then my Uncle Harry, who was a generation younger, was married to my mother's sister. He was like 87. I can't conceive of it because I always think of him as being about 45, and frankly, notwithstanding he's had health problems in the last few years. The last time I saw him, he looked great. He liked to golf. They liked to get a tan, and great guy. But these people have been part of my life forever.
Yeah.
From the time I was born, and I started thinking about it. Woodrow Wilson was president when my Aunt Betty was born.
Yeah.
I mean, she was born in 1919. The year they were fighting over the League of Nations.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
I think my father came here the second time in 1913. I don't know when the first time he came, but he came back in 1913. They brought his wife with him. So he went back to Italy and Sicily and got married and brought her back in 1913.
Well, it's kind of like that with my family too. My great grandfather crossed the ocean like 7 times, and the last time he brought his 16-year-old wife with him. And, and that would have been about, I don't know, 1904, 1905, his last trip. As far as I know, it's his last trip. And for all I know, he could have. Boy, and that was Aunt Betty's parents we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think I said on my blog, she was named after her maternal grandmother, her mother's mother, who probably, I don't know because I've never found a birth or death certificate, but their grandmother was probably born during the Civil War, the American Civil War. So you just think about that. I knew a couple of my grandparents well, and think that the collective memory went back to the Civil War is just phenomenal. Where are you going, David?
Hello.
You think you can just pull in and be part of the show?
No, I'll be out here until I'm invited.
Well, let's see. You can come in on the second hour if you want.
All right.
We're almost done with the first hour. No, maybe you can pull in if you want. But if you do, we got to set the camera back. Am I in this picture? Look at this. I'm not even in my own picture. The dog must have hit it. Honest to God. All right. Just first of all, that's better. Thank you. Okay. You're fine. We're fine. Doggone it. I'm doing all the talking and I'm not even in the shot. I was before though, so
they'll think I was on solo.
Dog must
Who's that guy talking in the background?
Yeah, well, I'm just the guy asking the questions. It's just.
And again, what they've seen, the advances in their lifetime, and the airplane, the car.
Yeah. I mean, I knew my great grandmother. She died like in '65, so I was 14 when she died. So I knew her. I never spoke to her much because I don't remember her speaking English. We just kind of smile. She'd hand me a peach or something. It's. But yeah, I mean, she came on the boat at the age of 16 to have 7 kids, and and then my head started spinning. My Aunt Betty had no children of her own, but she was everybody's Aunt Betty. And when I say everybody, I started counting. Tried to start counting the number of people who could legitimately call her Aunt Betty. I'm not talking about the in-laws. I'm talking about just her blood nieces and nephews and grandnieces and nephews and great-grandnieces. I mean, in Laura's case, she was Laura's great-great-aunt, great-great-great-aunt, excuse me. Great-great-great-aunt.
The last time we had a Nicosia family.
There's 17, by the way, just in my mother's root of this extended family.
The last family reunion we had was probably 5-6 years ago. I think longer than that, maybe 10 years ago. And all of my brothers and sisters and their kids and their kids and their kids, there was 130 of us at this reunion.
Wow.
Just because of my mother and father.
Yeah. Well, there were a lot of people. There were a lot of people in St. Mary's Church in Franklin, Massachusetts last week. Let me tell you. And
they knew everybody, right?
Well,
everybody knew them.
I'm just talking about almost everybody was a relative. Right. I mean, this was. I grew up with the mistaken but happy impression that everybody's family was like mine. And we go to these things, even funerals, but and it's just so great to get together.
Yeah.
Everybody loves everybody else. Whatever little arguments they have along the way are completely incidental to the fact that these people are all as close as you could possibly get to each other.
Yeah.
And just there isn't a bad apple in the lot. Honest to God, I mean, they are just terrific people. And I mean, I felt bad that we lost two of my relatives in a day, but everybody else, it was just great to see everybody else. All my cousins are all grown up, have grandchildren. But jeepers. Oh, here comes Mrs. Oh, you don't want to be in the show? All right, let's see how we're doing here. Now we got 5 minutes. 5 minutes for the first hour. I got my stopwatch. I finally realized I have a stopwatch. I can actually time this show myself and do it right. Anyway, so that's my sad story. But yeah, you talk about the collective memory. Holy. Yeah. I mean, Mary's father was born before the Wright brothers flew.
Yeah.
He remembered the first plane that came through the Mohawk Valley. He was, Von Hasseln told me how old he was, like 8 or something, 8 years old when one of the Wright Flyers came down the valley on its way to New York. Probably from Dayton, I don't know.
Just the advance. Well, you and I, the advances that have made since we were born.
The advances that have been made in the last 10 years, for crying out loud. I mean, last night we've got Jamie was down in Texas on the big screen TV, and we're chatting away with him. And meanwhile, the ones with the smartphones are taking smartphone videos and transmitting those of the video. And he's walking around. He's walking around in Texas, showing us the sites. He was looking for the one cow that was on the property. He says, "Well, there's 400 acres and one cow, so we can." And on the big screen, and it's just almost a perfect picture. On top of that, it's just amazing. Patricia sent me a link to a site showing this machine I think the Japanese have invented, where you would it's a scanner, right? Well, you think you've seen everything with scanners, right? You ain't seen nothing until you've seen this one. You put an ordinary book in, hardcover book or whatever, and it flips the pages and takes a picture of each page in 3D, so that despite the curve caused by the binding, it reconstructs it to a flat surface. We're just talking the photograph itself reconstructs itself to a flat surface, so you don't have to take the book apart to scan it, right? 250 pages a minute it does. 250 pages a minute just going.
It flips the page or
it flips the page, reads it, transforms it, and in 1 minute a 250 page book is done. So you can do the whole Library of Congress on one of these machines, just one at a time.
Wow.
And then, of course, once you've got a flat page, then you can do the optical character recognition on it beautifully, and it just goes zip, and then you catalog them. Then you do like that crazy guy does with the newspapers. And I wrote back to him, what's it going to be like 10 years from now?
Can't imagine.
I mean, look,
can't imagine.
Every little kid has got these iPads now, and they're transmitting the videos of themselves. They're going. I was down in Emmy Lou's, and little Weston, who's like 3. Emmy Lou's grandson, is just going with his iPad. Calling this up, watching this movie, playing this game, and
that's why they're going to be so much more. I don't know if any more intelligent than us, but so much more knowledgeable
and skilled. Yeah. Well, I made a point. When my kids were growing up, I never discouraged them from sitting at the computer because it was never a waste of time. Everything they learned to type before they learned how to spell. practically, you know. And
somebody sent me a link to a YouTube video on circular saws. If you put your finger in it, the machine will stop immediately.
I don't want to test that, but
wait. So this guy was showing it, demonstrating it. He takes a hot dog and he puts it into the saw blade. The machine stops instantly, and they look at the hot dog, and there's no cut. There's just a like a little bruise. So after they show everything, now this has been out for quite a while. I've heard about it, but I never saw it. So after they do this whole presentation, the inventor goes like this. They got all kinds of slow motion cameras and everything, lights there. Puts his finger in the saw. Stopped immediately. No bruising, no cutting or anything on his finger. Now
I'm told the guy who invented the ground fault interrupt outlet demonstrated it at one of these trade shows by having his daughter stand in a tub of water and throwing a radio in or something.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's well. They showed the saw, and they said that if this happens, it costs about $60 to repair. $60 in parts to repair the saw.
Yeah, for saving it.
Yeah, but I can't imagine what the saw.
But how does it distinguish between that and the board you're cutting?
the electrical impulse that you have in your skin.
Is that right?
Are they because of the moisture or something? They explained it all.
Because if it works with a hot dog too, obviously it can't be just.
If I didn't delete it, I'll send it to you.
Oh
God. Just the advances, and how did this guy think of this? He said that. Well, I think he said it was the same as the ground fault thing, the same theory.
I got one of my cousins is married to a very technically minded fellow, and he explained to me once how the reheat button on your microwave works. And after he got done explaining to me, it still made no sense whatsoever. Well, okay, I've run over time. All right, that does it for the first hour of this edition of the show with no name for Black Friday 2012. And we'll be back shortly with more of the show with no name.